So if you are a small business, or really any business, if you went to the 8A conference earlier this week, right now it's February 16th when we're doing this live, but earlier in this week was the National Small Business Conference, the 8A conference. But maybe you went to a conference right now. I have friends out in San Diego at the West Conference. There's in April, there's the Air, Sea, and Land Conference, I think, here in DC. And so there's all these conferences, many conferences out there. In fact, another one I'll show in a little bit. But the idea is if you're going to these conferences, they're expensive. They're expensive in cost, right? You have to pay a few $100s, a few $1,000s, especially if you're traveling or if you're getting hotels. And then it's the time cost as well. You're investing your time to be somewhere. That means you're not somewhere else. And it's really important that you take advantage of the conference you went to, right? That you go there, you learn, you meet people. And then when you come back, you have a plan on how you're going to sit there and network within the industry with all these great people you met at the conference. And so that's kind of our goal in today's training is I want to make sure you have a solid plan. I'm going to cover 10 steps that you should be doing as a follow-up to a conference. If you attended a conference recently, like the National Small Business Conference, if you attended that conference, I'm going to give you 10 steps to follow up so that you've gotten the start of an action plan as you move forward. So if you don't know who I am, by the way, my name is Neil McDonnell. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I want to welcome you to my daily LinkedIn Live federal sales training, where I teach tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When you follow a process A to Z, you're going to have predictable, repeatable results. And that's what I want for you. I know it's what you want for yourself is predictable, repeatable success. And so that's why we're going to do these trainings every single day, that every work day, but also in particular why we're doing it today, so that you have success around the conference you might have gone to or you're planning on going to. Do me a favor, help buyers remember who you are. In the chat or in the comments, if you're watching the replay, put your company name into the chat and put your core competency, 2 or 3 words that let us know what you do. And I apologize, I'm just going to pull up this live on LinkedIn. That's how I watch it, to make sure that you can actually see me. 2 seconds. Okay, we're good. So put that in there. And then the last thing is make sure you're engaging with each other. This is a community, just like the conferences you might have attended. When you go to a conference, part of what you're trying to get out of it is to meet new people, to engage and build your network that you might be able to take advantage of today, or you might be able to help them today. Or maybe it's just a network where you build professional friendships that last for a long time as you both, and you have many of these connections as you both work to help each other succeed in the GovCon market. So I'm excited about that. Okay, we're going to dive into 10 tips, and I'm going to move really fast. Occasionally, I'm going to share my screen to show you what I'm talking about. But I have 10 tips for how you can follow up to the conference you just went to ensure that you have success. So the first thing I want you to do when you finish up today's training, if you recently went to a conference, in particular that National Small Business one, but the first thing you do after a conference is create a list of all the people you met at the conference. So you have business cards. Maybe you went to a table and you found somebody's flyer. Whatever it is, if you've got their name and information, I want you to put it together in one place. And I recommend you put it into an Excel spreadsheet, not your CRM tool, some fancy customer relationship management tool. That's too much work, and it's too much more investment in time. Just put it into a spreadsheet, because the activities I'm about to tell you will determine which ones of the people in the spreadsheet are worth putting into your CRM. I'm not a believer of putting everything into the CRM, because then you have a lot of people in there who there's no relationship going forward, and you might as well not even add them in, right? So take everybody you met and their business cards, right, and put their information into the into a spreadsheet. And I capture a whole bunch of basic information like their first name, last name, job title, company name or organization if they're the government. I also am looking for information like when did I meet them or at what event? Because if you have a running spreadsheet, that would be kind of handy. I have a bunch of other information that I capture, and I'll share that later. But the one field you really want to track when you're putting people's names into any kind of list, but into a spreadsheet list that I'm describing, is you want to have a field that's just status or priority. Are they hot, warm, or cold? Cold leads are, I just got their card, but I don't even remember who they are, right? kind of thing. Warm leads are, we had a nice conversation, but nothing spectacular. And hot should be reserved for the people who say, oh my gosh, I love what you do. Let's make sure we connect after the conference. It's like, okay, you're a hot lead. And this just prioritizes, because if you have a list of 20 or 50 or 100 or more people that you're putting into the spreadsheet, you want to know what order should you be reaching out. And you don't need to prioritize or put them in all of them in order, but you certainly want them in categories of hot, warm, and cold. So that's the first step. Create a list of the people you met. The second thing is, I want you to create a list of the people you did not meet. And let me show you my screen here. And actually, before I share my screen, let me just tell you what I mean. So you went to the conference and there's a whole bunch of people you met, and you got their cards or you got their names or whatever. There's a whole bunch of people you didn't get a chance to meet them, right? And maybe you didn't get their card, et cetera. Well, there's ways to get their information so you can follow back up. And let me show you what I mean. I'm just going to share my whole screen here. Hopefully this makes sense. So I'm going to come in here. By the way, I wanted to come into the small business conference and show you, but their information's not as broad. And so I can't show you as much. If you went to this conference, you probably have some, user ID access information that you can get what I'm describing. But here on the Society for Military Contractors, is that who these guys are? So Sammy has a conference, and they had a conference in 2022. What I want you to do is to come in here and identify companies or organizations that you want to meet. So let's just look right here where it says exhibits. I'm thinking to myself, exhibit hall. In the exhibit hall, you have companies and you have federal agencies who put their information in. So when I come in, this is the big tool that they have. But what I want you to see right here is the exhibitor list on the left-hand side. And when I click on that, I'm going to zoom in now. When I click on it, I can begin to see all these different organizations. And if I want to meet somebody, I can go in. So here's AECOM, for example. If I click on it, I'm able to see here's Shannon, and Senior Communication Manager. I don't know what her role is, but I might put her name into my spreadsheet saying, I really want to get into AECOM. Let me try to reach out to Shannon and see if she can, have an intro call, or whether she has a small business specialist. I think it's Sean is over in AECOM. But somehow or another, I want to reach out. I want to start getting into AECOM. So that might be an example. Same thing as you come down. Let me come up a little bit, like right here, the Air Force Office of Energy Assurance. That's perfect. I want to get into the Air Force. Well, here's Daniel Soto, Deputy Director. Pretty good chance this person is the Deputy Director of Small Business Programs at this organization. And so I can get their name. They don't share the phone number, et cetera. But the reality is I can take his name, go look on Google, right? A great place to look. Or I can go to the Air Force and look into their list of small business specialists to see if that organization's phone number and email are there, and I can reach out. But Google is the first place I would go to look for Daniel. And so as I'm coming down, I just do the same thing. I'm seeing all these different organizations that it might make sense for me to be reaching out to, right? So here's Booz Allen. I haven't clicked on it before. I don't know if somebody's going to be there. So here, Carrie is a senior lead engineer. I don't actually know why she's there, but if I go follow her up and I try to find her on LinkedIn or something, I can begin to see maybe there's some sort of military engineering fit between her and us. And then if you come down, there's, I think, 500 plus folks that are in here, but like right here, if I can go into the VA, here's Director of Office Facilities Acquisition. I have a customer who does, construction or work on elevators, things like that. Well, they can reach out to this person. And so this is a great way, if you attended a conference, to be able to gather a bunch of people's names and information. I grabbed some government people, but I would also personally be going after folks that are in the space for, teammates, things like that, like I did with AECOM. So that's the second tip. We're only 2 ways down. So create a list of the people you met, create a list of the people you did not meet, because you want to follow up with them. So you can do exhibit hall people, and you can also look at the speakers list to see the bios of people who are there. I found all sorts of people at the national conference. I can reach out to them and say, hey, I didn't get a chance to see you. Could we have a quick intro call, or whatever I do? All right, so number 3, and I guess I should have kept sharing my screen for a second, but number 3 is about looking and finding, engaging with people who are sharing on LinkedIn. So let me come over here to LinkedIn. If I type in, I'm just going to type in 8A conference, even though it's called the national conference, what I'm looking for is 8A. So if I click here on it, And it is funny. So I don't know if this is coincidental that I'm coming up for training all this week. There's another training tomorrow about the 8A conference, but I can come in here, right? Here's Jackie Robinson Burnett. She used to head up the 8A program, and now she's off in the commercial side. But I can look in here and I can just engage, give it a thumbs up, right? I'm engaging with anybody who's been out there. But then I can also come in here and begin to expand on this. I can go, well, who's this Calvin guy? I think he's the Small Business Asabu for education, right? But there's all these people I can click on. Or I can come down here to where the links are for who liked this post that Jackie put in. And in here, as I start coming down, I start finding people, right? Here's the deputy director of something, probably SBA, right? Here's Charlie Smith. He used to be the Small Business Asabu for energy, and now he's out in industry doing that. But you can find these people. Here's Gwen Miles. She's CDC Osdabu, right? And just by looking, and it's funny, there's two links. I got to track that. That's interesting. But just coming to the post and engaging these posts, I'm beginning to get myself in front of Jackie, for example. And there's all sorts of other people as I come down, right? The first person I saw post about this conference was John Barker. He's in our community and sometimes attends these events, right? He's, I think, on the pricing and financial side primarily, probably does a lot. But he was the first one I saw, right? If I engage with him, then the people who are engaging afterwards see it. And so that's my third recommendation for you, is to research posts on LinkedIn where people are talking about the conference you just went to and engage with them. But then also add Jackie and others to your Excel list if you want to follow up with them, right? I don't have to add all those names, but I just showed you Gwen Miles. I can click on Gwen and say, hey, I didn't get a chance to see you at the conference. And she might come back and say, yeah, no kidding, I wasn't there or whatever. But it doesn't matter. I can use the conference as a stepping point to meet some of these people who are posting on LinkedIn about the conference. Okay, so number 4, I don't know why I need 2 hands to say number 4, but number 4, add LinkedIn, the LinkedIn URL to the spreadsheet for each contact. So I talked about putting the name, company, phone number, email, that kind of stuff. Well, you want to add in a field or just hyperlink the last name. Hyperlink the last name in Excel to the LinkedIn profile. Let's just use John Barker, for example. He was at that conference. I can hyperlink to his LinkedIn profile. So later on, when I come back, I can be engaging with him, following, beginning to develop a relationship that can go on and last for years, that came out of me seeing him posting on LinkedIn about the event. So those 4 about preparation. The next 6 I want to talk about really are about engaging. So first, you're prepping all the data. Even when you're going into LinkedIn to Jackie's post and you're giving a thumbs up, that's still prep for me. You're prepping your spreadsheet. You're trying to put together your list of folks you want to follow up with coming out of this. All right. So then the next thing is number 5 is I want you to send an email after the conference, at least to the hot people. Right? These leads that you think are hot for your company and the professional relationships you're trying to develop. So send them a great to meet you at the conference email. I would put in something like, hey, it was great to meet you at the conference, or great to see you, or great to visit your booth at the conference. I'm going to let you get settled, but I'd love to follow back up around and say hi in the next week or 2. So I will kind of lead it saying, hey, John Barker, I'm going to follow, and John's going to be my example today. I'm going to follow up with you. I'd love to connect and just touch base. And so, but I'm letting him know I'm going to follow back up in a week or 2. So that's really important, within a day or 2. And if you went to the National Small Business Conference here this week while I'm recording this live, then you should be doing this today or tomorrow. Don't go into next week. Send them an email, at least to your 10 or 20 hottest leads. Just send them a, hey, great to see you there. I'm going to follow back up. By the way, you can also use that for people you did not meet. I wish I could have met you. I was just tied up. We didn't get a chance to meet, whatever it is. I'll follow up later and try to just say hi, whatever you want to put in there. In the course, I actually have template emails that people can use. All right, so that was number 5. Number 6 is, so this is when you're going to start engaging with these leads. And let's say you have 50 people. If these are 50 people you want to build a relationship with, go to LinkedIn and follow them. Right? You can go to their profile. Don't connect with them yet. Just follow them. You can go into the more button and go down to the bottom, and in the list, you'll see follow. When you click on that, 2 things will happen. It'll let you track this person you just determined was a lead you wanted to build a relationship with, or at least see, right? You can always unfollow them later, and it's not a bad thing. But it also, when you click the follow button, it lets that other person know, hey, Neil's following you. It's like, huh. And they might do one of two things: ignore it, like just move on, or they might go, well, who's this Neil guy, and come back. And so that's why you always want to make sure your LinkedIn profile is the message you want it to communicate about what your company does. But follow up on LinkedIn and engage with any conference content that you see out there. So if you're reaching out and you're going into John Barker's profile and you're going to follow, go into his activity. Just look at the past few days and go, did he post about the conference he and I were both at, or the conference we both care about? And just engage on it. Give it a thumbs up if it was, if it makes sense to give a thumbs up. If he says something, you can put a comment in if it's relevant. Hey, I was at that session that you just posted a picture on. The other thing you can do, and this is kind of a big task within 6 that you're doing, step 6, is if you can't find them on LinkedIn, you can send an email asking for slides. Hey, I missed your presentation, but could I get a copy of the slides? Hey, your presentation was awesome. Could I get a copy of the slides? Whatever it is, just some soft message in there. Whatever you do throughout this entire 10-step process, don't sell yourself. You're not selling yourself. You're just trying to make an introduction, letting both parties decide whether it makes sense to continue to build the relationship, learn more and more about each other. So that was number 6. Number 7 is calling and leaving a voicemail. So at this point, when you get to step 7, this is where you're following up and truly scheduling meetings with people you met at a conference or you wished you met at a conference, etc. I want you to call and leave a voicemail. You might get them. And if you do, just tell them you're calling to schedule an intro call and are they open to it? But generally, people don't answer the phone these days. And so you'll get the voicemail, which I love because it's a marketing touch point. You're able to leave a voicemail that says, hey, it's great meeting you at the conference, or, I was bummed I wasn't able to get over to your booth or to your session. Miss you at the conference. I'd love to schedule an intro call, just 15 or 30 minutes, right? Never more than 30 minutes. Anything more than 30 minutes for a intro call, it's just a waste of time, right? You should use more than 30 minutes when you're actually sitting down and talking about opportunities or whatever. But if you're just doing an intro call, it doesn't take that long. 15 to 30 minutes allows both of you to decide whether it's worth scheduling a second meeting. And now you're off to the races on developing a relationship with these people you met at a conference. So number 7 is calling and leaving a voicemail. Number 8 is sending an email. And so these are 2 different steps, and they're really important to me that you begin with the voicemail. You're calling, leaving that voicemail, and then a couple of hours later, you're sending an email, and the email is saying, I'm just following up to the voicemail I left. I'd love to have an intro call. Again, I got a template on it, but you're experienced writing emails, right? You're just letting them know that I left a voicemail following up to that. It was great seeing you at the conference. I would welcome a chance to have an intro call with you, 15, 30 minutes. And always in my emails like that, I always give them a suggested date and time. Like if next Tuesday or Thursday at 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. East Coast works for you, works for me, right? If you give somebody a choice, they might pick from it. If you don't give them a choice, then they might get distracted by life, right? And move on. So that was number 8. Number 9 is have a meeting, right? You've got the intro call scheduled, and so you're going to have this meeting. But my tip here for number 9 is to make sure you follow a call plan. I've done a lot of training on call plans, and the whole point of a call plan is having an objective. What do you personally want out of this relationship? When you reach out to these people, what do you want to be able to get from them? And I don't mean it in a totally selfish way. I just mean you need to think about what would be a win for you. And then also think about what possibly could be a win for the other person. If I'm calling John, what could be a win for John, right? Maybe it's enough for John to be able to meet a company that might be interested in his services. Maybe I know of an event that they would love to have somebody like John come speak at. Whatever it is, if I can pay attention to what might be a win for him, then I'm going into a meeting with that win-win mentality. This whole mindset that says the only way this is going to be a successful meeting is if I win and John wins, right? By the way, we don't all have to go meet John. There's more than just John at the conference. But a call plan also allows you to have the questions you're going to ask John, because it's back to John. The questions you're going to ask will be able to move the relationship forward. When you ask early questions coming out of a conference like this, you're trying to find out, does it really make sense for us to build a relationship? Because if all you're trying to do is, can I sell that person something, then that's just transactional, and you might as well not even call them. Just wait for it to come out on Sam or something, right? And so have a call plan that has a clearly stated objective. This is what I want to get out of it. And then a purpose, a mutual win-win purpose for the meeting, and then have yourself some questions that allow you to guide the conversation smoothly towards that win-win that you envision for you and the other person you're going to talk to. So that was number 9. And number 10, stay engaged, right? Number 10 could almost be repeat everything else, but I want you to stay engaged. We don't go to a conference to get a bunch of cards and stick them in a drawer. I've encountered so many people who do this, and it just amazes me. They're so proud of how many cards they have in a drawer. I'm like, well, are any of those relationships? Are you helping any of those people besides just selling them something? Are you helping any of them? And are they helping you? Have you developed a relationship? I would be willing to bet if you got a drawer full of cards, you can get rid of 80% of them, because 20% of them you can support and they can support you, right? So long-term engagement is a choice. And this is why I talked about at the beginning, success is about following up, right? Showing up and then following up. And so here's some examples of ways you can stay engaged. The first thing is just long-term activity. As you go forward, think about attending other events together, or get on LinkedIn, right? And engage on LinkedIn. Don't just follow John once and then get away. If you really want to build a relationship with this person, then you can look at your LinkedIn profile every day to see in case something drops, or you can just schedule 15 to 30 minutes once a week to say, these 10 people, I want to go look at their profile proactively every week to see if they have posted anything that's relevant to me, anything I can contribute to their post on LinkedIn. That's LinkedIn engagement. That's social selling. Next thing is read org documents. So if you went to a conference, hopefully you're trying to meet federal agency buyers, people like that. I talked about multiple Air Force or VA organizations at that one event. They have organizational documents. If you read these, it's a great thing to be able to follow back up and say, hey, Sally, I was reading this document out of your organization. Do you mind if I have a quick call, 15 minutes? And I just talked to you about some of the things I was reading in there. It's a way to start expanding that relationship. And to me, this is business development, right? You're understanding the agency and you're building the relationships, and you're trying to have discussions that will lead to you being able to identify opportunities within that organization. The last thing I want you to just keep in mind as you're staying engaged, after you follow the 9 steps, the 10th step, that's staying engaged, most importantly, have follow-up meetings. Don't just have one meeting and let it drop. I always have meetings with a couple of people. We know each other so well that when we get to the end of the meeting, even if we're kind of in a rush to get off, we're like, wait, what's your schedule look like 2 weeks from now? Let's get something on the books so we don't let this go. We proactively are committing to scheduling something right then and there. Anytime somebody pushes it off, not that I'm trying to be mean here, but they clearly don't value meeting again. And sometimes they just forget. And so you have to drive this. Have follow-up meetings with the people you want to engage with, in particular, those hot leads that you have. If they're really hot leads, you should be meeting with them maybe 2 to 4 weeks as you continue to develop the relationship. And if you read organizational documents, or if you see information that's out there that they might value, you'll have reasons to follow up and keep meeting as you develop those relationships. So that was a lot. There was 10 tips there. I'm happy to share a handout. I got a checklist that's part of the course that we have for this, but I'm happy to share the handout of the 10 tips if anybody wants that. As a recap, just to let you know, when you follow up with a conference and you want to get full value, right? A conference you just attended or a conference you plan on going, there's 3 main things you want to pay attention to after the conference. You want to create an action plan coming out of that conference of how you're going to engage with all these people you just met. The next thing you want to do is warm up all of the leads that you can on LinkedIn. 80% of them are going to be on LinkedIn. And so you want to warm up your relationship with them on LinkedIn. And then the third thing is schedule intro calls. Start having those introduction calls that will build relationships for you inside of teaming partners or inside of agencies that'll lead to federal success. Hopefully that made sense on those 3 things. And here's the thing I want you to do today, if you really want success from the National Small Business Conference that you just attended, is create that spreadsheet I said. Just create a spreadsheet with headers across the top and fill it in. If you do that one step, you'll be 80% on the way to what I'm talking about. Because if you don't put a list together, you won't do the other 9 tips I said. The first tip is creating that spreadsheet. So get that going. Hey, if you're not subscribed to my newsletter, make sure you subscribe to the LinkedIn newsletter. That's where we share information about what training is coming up. We have one more training tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday, the 17th of February. And that one's about how to maximize your 8A certification. So if you have an 8A certification, you definitely want to attend that. Remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next lesson.